I'm Greg Pettis with Dominion Pest Control. Today I'm with our business manager Maria, and we're going to talk about stink bugs. Now, when we talk about stink bugs, most people want to know, can you really control these things, or is this just something that you guys say you can do? What would you say to somebody calling in that really wants to know, what do you do and how do you control them?
Well, absolutely, stink bugs can be controlled, which is great news. And what we do is we control them from the exterior of the home. What we do is we power spray homes top to bottom, not just your base perimeter, but we're doing the whole roof line all the way down. And what we're using is a micro-encapsulated product. And that product adheres to the side of the home so that when the stink bugs come onto the home and they land, they actually ingest that chemical, and that will eradicate them. So you can control them.
So you're saying that you keep them dying on the outside before they get inside?
That's the goal. Okay. Our goal is to keep the homes free from the interior from stink bugs. Keep them dying on the outside.
That's great. So what we're doing is we're treating the outside every 3 months and treating it with a microencapsulated product so that when the stink bugs land, they're getting the product on their bodies and dying before they get in. Now, what if folks already have stink bugs on the inside of the house? What would you tell somebody?
Well, what we do is we treat on the interior. What we're doing is we're going into attics, crawl spaces, we get into chimneys, vents, and we also get into any nooks and crannies. We do what we call crack and crevice work. Okay. And so we're using the products in very specific areas in the home. So we're getting the areas where those stink bugs try to get into the house.
So we're targeting each and every area of the house where stink bugs would emerge from. But going back to your original point, we're going to stop them before they even get in.
That's right. But some homes already have the stink bugs on the inside. They've already overwintered. That's the hibernation that the stink bugs, do. They overwinter. So if they're already in the homes, then it's our job to get in there and to eradicate it from the inside.
We give them an eviction.
Yeah.
What's another question that you get frequently?
Oh, I would say a very valid question that I get every day is, are the chemicals you're using safe for my family and for my pets? Yeah.
That's a really good question. Most of the products that we use are already being used in similar fashion on animals, on pets. Right. Dogs and cats. The difference between what we use is that it's formulated to last a really long time. So if you're using like a flea and tick shampoo on your dog, that's not going to last a very long time. Right. And it's the same with over-the-counter products for bugs. They're designed to give a quick kill, but they're not going to have the longevity as something like we would apply. So we just ask that children and pets aren't around us when we make the application, and then once it dries, it's safe for everybody.
Greg, I get this question often. Why do we need to treat quarterly?
That's a great question. The reason we treat quarterly is because we know that the products we use are going to break down. Now, a lot of people think that the rain is something that's going to break it down, or moisture. Actually, with a microencapsulated product, that's not the case. What is the case is ultraviolet light, which is the sun, and it takes about 3 months to break down the product. Now, we know stink bugs really like to show up in the spring and then again in the fall. Right. But you don't know what time they're going to show up. It's been inconsistent here. So if we have a product on the house that is there, we know it's going to break down in 3 months, but we're going to reapply in 3 months, then there's never a gap. The stink bugs don't have the opportunity to move in because there's always an active insecticide on the perimeter of the home to stop them from getting in. If they do get in, it's a lot harder to shut them down after they've moved in because now you have them coming down into the living areas, and you have to figure out exactly where they're coming in. And a lot of people don't even realize which rooms they're emerging from because they're a flying insect. They'll fly from one room into another because there might be, say, more daylight in that room. And so then we have to really do a lot of investigating. But if we're applying every 3 months, there's really no option there. The stink bugs cannot get in because they're dying on the outside before they even have a chance to get into the inside. And most people are pretty reasonable. They understand, hey, yeah, dead on the outside is better than alive on the inside. So we found that with stink bugs, they are a different kind of beast when it comes to control. But if we treat quarterly with the power spray, we don't have too many problems at all.
What would you say in regard to the rain and the elements if you're applying it, but we get a lot of rain, maybe a week after you've already applied it,
Yeah.
how would you address that?
Well, the microencapsulated products really have great bonding properties. So once they dry, they stick. Now, if you were to have a torrentious downpour where the wind is blowing really super hard and it's almost like pressure washing the house, then pretty much anything you apply on the house is going to go away. But with your standard rains that we get, it's usually not a problem at all. We don't get very many callbacks with the stink bugs, which is something that we really enjoy knowing that our customers are satisfied. And we literally treat hundreds of accounts in both Lancaster and York counties for stink bugs. And like I said, we don't really get too many callbacks because we've chosen to do it quarterly. You know, a lot of pest control companies are servicing the inside every service. And we've chosen not to do that with the exception when people are having a problem. Do you want to just kind of tell us why we've chosen to do that?
Right. Well, because we power spray, we actually have power spray rigs on our trucks. And because of that, we're able to have a really nice application on the exterior. We're doing the entire home. And we can keep that control on the outside. And so on the inside, we're going in when there's a problem. If, say, for the example, the stink bugs have found a crack or crevice, and we're starting to see one room having, you know, a half a dozen or more of stink bugs live a day, that's when we really rely on good communications with our customers, that they're going to call us right away and say, hey, you know, I'm having a problem in the master bedroom. I believe they're coming in through the vent. Can you come back out?
Yeah.
So then we'll come back in and do that nitty-gritty kind of crack and crevice type of work. But it's better to keep the chemical on the exterior than having it on the inside of the home.
Okay, so you're saying people need to call us and say, hey, I started to see them, can you come back? And then what's the fee for that?
There is no fee.
There's no fee.
Because it is a 90-day warranty on our quarterly services. It is a warranted service, so it means that folks can have us come back in with any flare-ups at all, and there is no additional charge to them at all.
So if they're still having stink bugs, you're saying we warranty our work and we come back at no charge.
Right. And we actually welcome the challenge. You know, a lot of times when we first get onto a new account, we're learning the home. We're learning the details of the home. And especially the older homes, log homes, farm homes, with their type of construction and so forth, we need to learn them. And it may take a few services until we really learn where are they coming in from.
Right.
So our technicians really enjoy the challenge of saying, hey, we got control in this home, except for this one room. So we go in there and we're trying to find out if there's a vent, if there's a crack or crevice around a window frame or well or something that we need to get into and service. So we enjoy the challenge.
Okay, you talked about our technicians being up to the challenge. Why don't you talk a little bit about the level of experience of our technicians?
Right now we have 15-year average experience with all our technicians.
So we're pretty much all veterans in the industry, and
That's
we're
right.
not new hires or anything like that. We've all been doing this a long time.
That's right.
You know, a few years ago we sat down and we decided, are we going to actually treat stink bugs because the national pest control companies are declining. They don't want to treat them. And we looked at each other and we said, you know, we all have many years of experience here. We're a veteran crew. These guys are a challenge for us. They're new. We've pretty much been there and done that with all the other pests. So we agreed that this is something that we're going to go after. And I think that we're pretty satisfied at the level of control that we've been able to provide for our customers while everybody else is still saying that there's nothing you can do. You know, stink bugs have kind of been this real taboo pest. People just don't know what to believe about them because there's so much misinformation, and then you have companies like ourselves saying we can control them. People just aren't sure what to believe about them. But let's talk a little bit about the habits of the stink bugs, and then we can talk about how we play on those habits, how we use that to help us control the stink bugs. Why don't you start out with, say, over summertime, what are the stink bugs doing?
Yeah, well, we've really done a lot of study, and we've worked with the Department of Ag as well in studying the habits. And in the summertime, the stink bugs are actually feeding and breeding. So they're out in the fields. They're enjoying our soybean, our rich produce in our area, corn crops. They love the, like fruit trees and things of that sort. So they're out there feeding. As soon as the temperature starts to change, sometime early September, the temperatures start to change. That's instinctual in the stink bug. Temperature's changing, it's getting cooler,
it's
time to find my winter home. So they start moving into the homes, buildings, not just houses, because we service plenty of companies and buildings, but they're looking for a way to get inside to protect themselves for the winter months. So it is an instinctual thing.
So then they get in people's houses, and we know the rest of the story. Well, why don't you explain to us what happens when, say, they're just content in an attic, but then as it gets colder outside, people start to see the stink bugs in the other areas of their house. They didn't even know they had stink bugs. Why does this happen?
Well, they start to actually migrate. They start to move through the home. They're going to areas where there's light. They gravitate towards light and heat. So, and also they're trying to get out at certain points, like when the temperature would change again.
Right.
So one, they're going to an area where they sense heat, where they sense light. So if there's a house, say like, get a lot of questions about the sunrooms in people's homes. The sunrooms get hit hard. They're going they're gravitating toward the windows, toward the light areas, in the rooms. So they'll be doing that usually closer to spring. And then they're starting to find a way, how do I get back out there when springtime comes? So
we see that a lot. It's interesting because as it gets colder outside, the more your furnace or heaters run on the inside. So the stink bugs are actually sensing that heat and pressing in, even if they're in the attic or some crack or crevice, they're emerging more on the inside the colder it gets outside, because the extreme, they feel the really cold outside, but they feel the really warm on the inside. So naturally, it's almost like they think it's summertime inside the house, and they begin to emerge. And you brought up the sunrooms. They're always a real challenge because a lot of times there isn't any access point in the roof. So we have to get really creative in tackling them. But I think it goes back to what we were saying originally, that it's a whole lot easier if you've already treated the outside so that you stopped the plague before it happened on the inside.
Right.
Then when the winter season is over, what happens?
Well, we're moving into the spring. So they're merging. They're very active on the inside, right?
They're getting out.
And they're going to find some way to get out of the house.
And that's when you get a lot of your panic calls, right?
Yeah, anywhere March, April, even early May, we'll be starting, they'll say, where did they come from? They had no idea that the stink bugs were in their home the entire winter.
Right.
And so they move from the attic, they start coming down through the vents. I remember several calls where they were coming out of the vents, out of the bathrooms, and then going from the vents and bathrooms out to the kitchen and out to the sunroom. But they started in the attic, and they were there all winter.
All winter long, and they didn't even realize it.
No.
Okay, so when that happens, then we have to get very creative, and that's when we almost turn into like stink bug paramedics. We come out and we have to shut the thing down, and people get really excited because they're tired of living with them by that point, because they've dealt with them all winter long. The problem that we have then at that point is the cycle begins all over again.
Right.
The stink bugs, what happens with them is as they're emerging, that smell that they're famous for is something that they actually use to mark their spot. Kind of like a dog, marking its fire hydrant. These guys will actually spray where they're emerging from. And that's one of the clues that we use to figure out where they're coming out at. We look for those little reddish to yellowish dots. And then that tells us where they're marking their spot, because that instinct that they have is a pheromone that they're putting out that tells them, hey, in 6 months, we're coming back to this spot. That was a pretty good hotel we just stayed in. Let's mark it so we remember where to come back. And the problem is the more that you have on your house, the pheromone, the more you're going to have coming back in the fall. And that's one of the reasons we were looking at those stink bug traps. We were kind of thinking, should we recommend these to our customers? Should we not? And we kind of concluded because that pheromone or that attractant is so strong, you're actually inviting the stink bugs to come back to your house. It's almost like the Japanese beetle traps. You know, if you put them beside your rose bushes, it's like inviting the whole neighborhood to come to your rose bush. If you're going to use them at all, you want to get them away from the house,
far away,
so that that pheromone isn't attracting them to the house. So, so that pheromone tells them where to come back.
Right.
And if you had the stink bugs in the previous year, that's a good sign that you're going to be having more stink bugs coming back, not just by themselves. Now they're bringing them their family with them that they just had. As you said, they were out feeding and breeding all summer long. So in the fall, 6 months later, they're saying, "Hey guys, it's kind of come home. It's time to come home. And by the way, we found a really good hotel, and it was your house, and here we come." So that's why they're actually. It's not that they're multiplying in the house, which a lot of times people think they are, but it's actually that they're bringing more back with them because the pheromone was present. And the other issue is next spring, after they've spent the whole winter in the house, as they're emerging, now the babies that they had are squirting, which they're adults at this point, but they go out and they do it all over again. So that's why it gets really, really bad. Yeah. You know, we talk about people that are smashing the stink bugs and they're spraying, and even when they vacuum them, they're emitting that in the vacuum, and now you have it heated with an air blower on it, and the whole house smells like stink bugs. One of the questions that you get is, does our product make them squirt, or how's that work? And it's a great question, because the last thing that you want to do is make the situation worse by getting the stink bugs to squirt. Because it's going to attract more.
Right.
And the answer is, with the products that we're using on the outside, they don't have the opportunity, and they don't squirt at all. They just simply get the product on them, it begins to break down their nervous system, and they die within relatively a few hours, and then you don't have them on the inside. But they don't squirt, and that's a really important factor for us, because if we were using something that would cause them to be squirting when they're dying on the outside, then you would literally bring the whole neighborhood. So it's a good thing, and the microencapsulated product seems to really do the job without provoking the situation.
Exactly.
You know, Maria, about the time people call us and you talk to them on the phone, a lot of them are traumatized by the amount of stink bugs they have in their house. And it may not just be a home, it could be a business. Production is down because these things are flying everywhere. The secretaries can't get anything done. It's a really good feeling, isn't it, to know that we're making a difference.
Oh yeah, I think that's the best part about it. At the end of the day, you say to yourself, wow, I really help people. You know, as a company, we all have. You know, we've answered questions in the office. We've set things straight. They understand there is something you can do about it. And then the technicians are out there, you know, we're a good team. The technicians are out there servicing, you know, and shutting it down. So it feels good at the end of the day to say, boy, we really helped. We helped homes, we've helped people in their businesses, we're helping our community. Makes us feel really good.
Yeah, it really is a satisfying feeling to know that we're helping people when they thought they were helpless or in a hopeless situation with having to live with these things the rest of their lives.
And we made a difference.